Right. And what do you think is the best way for designers to test accessibility of what they've created? Is there any prototyping tools that they can use to test, for example, for screen readers and assistive technology? Or do they have to learn code?
So first, I'd like to answer kind of what can, in terms of usability tests, what accessibility issues can we spot at what level of prototyping? So there are lots of things that you can spot just by doing a mock-up and doing usability testing based on that mock-up. You can check, things like contrast, readability, um, whether it's easy to understand, maybe even page structure. So you can essentially you want to test those things as early as possible, and you can do that on the mockup. And then as a designer, maybe you want to do a more interactive prototype with whatever tool you use to do simple interactive prototypes. And then again, you can test a little bit more. You can test whether people notice the interactive elements and people understand the structure of something. And that's a good second step. But then it's only when you have something that's functional and coded to the right standards that you can check all the other accessibility issues. To do that last bit, you'd need to learn to code. And no, it will not be enough to use a prototyping tool. Maybe, or there's maybe one that would be enough, but to use that one, you need to code. You need to code in the same way the front-end developers do. But there is a lot you can do already with a static mockup or with an interactive mockup. But you can't check for everything. So that's why it is so useful to be really informed about what are the known best practices, known mistakes that designers typically make, and to be careful. So essentially, the policy that I tend to encourage is, if you're going to be, is to say to designers and product managers and everyone, look, you can take risk if you're going to do rigorous, inclusive usability testing in the next couple of weeks. Then if you're going to do that, then yes, feel free, to invent a new interaction. If you're not going to do that, don't take the risk. You will not notice if you fail, and it will impact people who are not as privileged as you. So it's about, what I find is useful is to really study the design systems of companies and organizations who have done a lot of accessibility testing. So the Government Digital Service design system or the BBC Global Experience Language, studying them a lot, and it's really helpful. And I tend to use these patterns again. It doesn't look very innovative, but they're like this for a reason. And so that's what I encourage, yeah.
Yeah. And you already mentioned color contrast and readability of the text, but is there any other top design mistakes that come to your mind?
I mean, there are lots. Essentially, these guidelines are a long list of mistakes to avoid. Each of them is simple and easy to avoid once you know about it. It's a long list of mistakes to avoid. Oh yeah, keyboard. So a lot of people don't use a mouse. A lot of people use the keyboard to interact with the user interface. So typically the way they do that is press the tab key on the keyboard sequentially, and that in turn will reach all the interactive elements on the page. And once you've reached one, that could be a link, could be a button, it could be, I don't know, a text input, then you can press enter to activate it, or space sometimes. Now, so first you need to make sure that your website is entirely, you can do everything just by using the keyboard, just test it. And the other thing is, in what order should these interactive elements be selected when people press the tab key sequentially? In what order should that be? Now, if you don't tell developers, it's very likely that it will not be a natural order. So you really, really, really need to tell developers, and also check that it's implemented right, because a lot of people make mistakes, and a lot of developers don't, use practices that mean that it's a mess, and they might not know. You need to tell them. So that's another biggie, and there are lots of other small things like that.
Right, and would you document it at the visual design stage or wireframing, or make it a part of the final design documentation?
So some people do that. At Slack they do, at the BBC they do. Sometimes people call these blue lines. So they have mock-ups and then they have show the same mock-up with accessibility annotations, and that will include the alt text. It will include the role of every element. Is this a button? Is this a link? Is this, I don't know, is this a tab? And it also include the order of elements. And we call that sometimes the tab stops. So you could do it like that. And yeah, that'd be best. Sometimes it's efficient to, if you work closely with developers and if you have a culture that cares about accessibility, it's enough to sometimes just talk about it and make it a very clear, if you're able with everyone to make a clear commitment that whatever will be designed developed will meet the web content accessibility guidelines, then you can just say, focus order needs to be natural and predictable, following natural reading order, and then as design you need to check whether that's been implemented well, and because otherwise you don't know. And so that in all cases is enough. Like if something doesn't follow natural reading order, it'll be fixed. It won't be released.